great Tuesday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on this Tuesday night, election night in a couple of states tonight, including California. That's what we're sort of keeping an eye on tonight. We don't have any word yet as to what's happening there. The polls actually just will be closing here in about 30 minutes, so it'll be into the night, and we'll update you as much as we can before we go off air tonight. I can't keep this guy up. I've already got him past his 8 o'clock bedtime. Him and Johnson, they go to bed at 8 every night, so we have Akers the only one that stays up with me. So I'm glad to have James Akers on the line tonight, and good to see you, buddy. How are you? I had to rib you a little bit. What's going on tonight with you?
Not much. Looking forward to talking to you and your audience tonight.
Me too, buddy. I want to tell you thank you so much for a great weekend with you and Miss Imogene. We love seeing you guys, and the fellowship was great, and we'll do it again soon. And you're my kind of folks. I'll just leave it at that, and we appreciate you. I really do. I mean that. I'm not being funny and facetious about that. Hey, want to start out tonight. There's breaking news, and we heard about 2 hours ago that the United States and Iran have exchanged fresh strikes out in the Gulf. Now, the Iranian strikes were basically done by drones that we have shot down. We have sent, as Trump called them before, some love taps to them in response to that tonight. What's your thoughts on that? We didn't have you on last night, and me and Leslie Mill, we were talking about the sort of the brush up with Bibi and Trump. I'm going to get your opinion about that here in a minute. But what's your thoughts on this brush up tonight in the Gulf? Something to worry about, or do you think it's just the two sides just still, the Iranians just trying to flex their muscle a little bit to see if they've got, if the United States is going to do something about it, or do you think it's more serious?
Well, the ceasefire and the peace negotiations and all of those things just seem to be going nowhere in a hurry these days. And so a lot of the problem, at least according to the Iranians, is based in Lebanon. They want to make Lebanon a part of the whole thing, and I'm not sure that's going to happen. And they just keep firing missiles and drones at U.S. bases in the region, or countries hosting U.S. bases in the region. And from what I read, all of them were shot down. None of them got through in this latest wave. Of course, you never know these days what's accurate and what isn't. And then the United States responded with a hit on the island. And
yes.
And so, it just seems like this tit for tat. And you mentioned that you had talked with your guest last night about a lot of the news outlets are reporting this sort of Netanyahu and Trump going back and forth over things, and there seems to be some problem there. And so the Middle East never fails to surprise, and it just this is a gift that keeps on giving, it seems.
Yeah. Well, I think that a couple of things. I'll get to Bibi and Trump in a minute, but I'm with you on the ceasefire. But where do you think this escalates to the point? Because the Iranians, like you said, they told Trump yesterday, we're not talking to you because of Israel. As an attack on Lebanon, which I don't see the things as connected, even though Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran. Iran made it that way. Trump made it that way, and I don't think he should have, because Israel cannot sit by, James, and allow a terrorist group to attack it. Now, on the news story itself, Axios has pretty much been basically shamed and exposed that they made this up, that this leaked source, this anonymous source, and we sort of made it clear last night that, we were basing what we were reporting on what we heard. But there was a possibility that all this was a bunch of lies, and the media is good at this. They've been trying to divide America and Israel for a long time, and I think it's part of the Iranians' goal is to divide America and Israel from their common goal in the Middle East. But it's a lie. Every bit of that phone call, the Israeli press people today said that is not how the call went down. There was no name calling by Trump. Trump certainly didn't use the F word. Now maybe he did to Bibi, but it wasn't in the context of how it was put. That Bibi was hated all over the world. That Trump kept him out of jail. Trump did this. Trump did that, and you're effing crazy, and just that's how it was reported. And what I understand that there was three main elements to this phone call. Number one, that America and Israel were not on the same page because Bibi was not all on board with the ceasefire. He believed that Trump needed to keep fighting. Trump was not all on board with Bibi keeping the war going. He wanted the Israelis to pull back, give peacetime. Trump said he got on the phone with Hezbollah. They assured him, which is a joke, that they were not going to do it. And what did they do? They went out and shot another 100 rockets into Israel last night, and in the northern part. And then Iran uses this, and they say, well, because of what Israel did, we're not going to talk to you about our agreement with us in the United States, which is a crock of what. But that's just the Middle East. But what is it your opinion that a lot of this is the attempt to tear down the wall or tear down the bond between America and Israel? Because, James, if they get us isolated and fighting with each other, then we're certainly not going to pay attention to the Arab world and to the real enemy, and the real enemy is Iran. And that's what I was trying to say last night, and probably said it a little bit too many times, but I don't want people to think I'm opposing what President Trump's doing in the Middle East, but I do believe if he was upset last night at anybody, he shouldn't be upset at Bibi. He should be upset at Iran, because the Iranians are the enemy, not Bibi. Bibi's trying to help him. And you don't do a friend like this. And every American president, I swear, I don't know what it is with the presidency of this country, that we can never appreciate our friend in the Middle East. Israel always gets the brunt of whatever goes wrong in the Middle East. Israel gets blamed for it, even by America.
Well, I think that's true, and it's certainly true. The media is not going to give Trump a break, and is going to exaggerate any distance between him and Netanyahu. Axios has never been a friend of Trump, and so if the reporting, if that's the source of the reporting, then you have a problem from the beginning. But the undeniable fact is that Israeli forces have now moved deeper into southern Lebanon than they have in 25 years.
That's correct.
And so, again, they regard Hezbollah as an existential threat. I think since the so-called ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, I think we talked about this on the last time I was on your program. Hezbollah has launched over 1,000 missiles strikes. That's in my view not much of a ceasefire, but so Israel is always going to take the brunt of international condemnation. That's the way it has been since 1948. The Israelis are used to it. They probably regard this as an opportunity for them to take care of the Lebanon situation, and it may not come around again. And so the Israelis are being aggressive in southern Lebanon. There's no doubt about that. Whether there's any distance at all between Netanyahu and Trump on policy in Lebanon, I have no clue. But I'm like you, I sort of doubt it.
I don't think they're in a distance, but this is what my take is. And if I know President Trump is anxious to get this over with, there's many reasons why he needs to get it over with quick. The midterms being the biggie, our economy, the oil prices, and all this. Even though I don't think that there are many Americans that fret about it. I'm not one of them. I know why we're doing what we're doing in Iran, why it's important. My attitude is, James, and it was this way last night. You know, me and you had a long discussion this weekend. We talked a little bit about Vietnam and your service in that conflict. And one of the things that when I was just a young kid when Vietnam happened. I don't remember it, a lot of it. I was probably 8 or 9 years old when the boys came home, and I what I've read though of history and talked to some people that were over there, it was not the soldiers that lost Vietnam for America. It was the government. It was our bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. that put so many restraints on our forces to fight the Viet Cong and to fight the communists. We almost were fighting a political war, not a regular war. And it cost the lives of many thousands of men, and the morale of the men was so terribly beat when they got home, and then the public turned on the soldiers, and it was just an ugly time in our history of America. And it was during the time of the rebellious 70s. I don't see a parallel with Iran, but I do see one thing that's similar. We are trying to appease political people when we need to be understanding we are fighting a war. And if you're going to go into conflict with somebody, you do not give your enemy a lifeline. You take care of business. You don't play around. You fight to win. If you're going to fight, if you're not serious about fighting, don't bring us into a war. If we wasn't serious about winning Vietnam, we should have never went. And that's the only thing I see as a parallel in this conflict, and I feel like it was a mistake. I do. That President Trump let off the gas because you had them on the ropes. And the more that you play games with these people and give them time to, the gay Ayatollah tonight, there's Rubio was on the Hill today, and he was asked over and over about the Ayatollah, and he said, well, as far as we know, he's alive. Well, we don't know he's alive. I heard one commentator say that it's Pride Month, and he is a avowed homosexual, and they're saying, well, he'll be out, this month. If he won't be seen in any other month, he'll be out in this month, and that's no disrespect to any class of people tonight. But the fact of the matter is, James, I'm very grieved in the fact that we have let off the gas. And again, if we wasn't serious about this, don't get us in it. Just don't get us in it. But finish the job. That's my thing. And again, don't blame Israel. Israel's just protecting its own citizens, as it should.
No, I agree. I agree with that, and also based on the Vietnam experience, if you're going to fight a war, then you need to fight it to win. And there's a sort of strange sort of parallel. Vietnam was the first war with precision-guided weapons. And one of the criticisms of this present one is that we have fired off a boatload of precision-guided weapons, and it is very, very difficult to replace those once they've been fired. And so there's a lot of concern in a lot of quarters about our defense industry being able to replace what is lost, because in war you always expend more of your best weapons than any planner can account for, and so that's certainly been the case here. And there are a lot of people that say, "Hey, wait a minute! If we have a crisis in Asia involving China and Taiwan, many of those weapons that we fired in Iran, we're going to wish we had in the event of that sort of scenario. So,
It's interesting take. Wow. Yeah. Let me ask you this. I heard a military expert today talk about the naval blockade that we've got going on in the Strait of Hormuz. And was asked the question, do you think that that's going to be enough to topple this regime? Do you think that alone is going to stop the Iranians from doing what they're doing? Or do you think that Trump's going to have to reignite the air war? And he was even asked that. Do you think the air war in itself will get the goals achieved that the Americans want, which is basically they want that uranium turned over by these mullahs. They do not want these mullahs having a whiff of enriched uranium in which they can build a bomb. And that seems to be the thing that the Iranians don't want to do. And this same military expert said they're waiting Trump out. He said that's what they're doing. He said they're experts in this stuff. He said they're experts in subterfuge. They're experts in lying. They're experts in saying one thing to the camera and doing another thing. And he said these attacks are just Iran's testing the Americans' mettle to see if we're going to fight back. And the more less we fight back, the more they get emboldened to do more. So do you think that what we've done so far will be enough? And do you think the naval blockade in itself will be enough to achieve getting them off that nuclear path? I don't.
yeah, I think the answer is no and no. Uh, they uh, they have sensed a bit of weakness in Trump, and it's completely because he's hamstrung by domestic politics in their view, and so he is not going to pull out all of the stops uh, to hit them in the near future, or at least that's their calculus, because he is politically vulnerable in terms of what is happening domestically. And so they're playing a waiting game. And they've always done that. And if there's any truth to this whole thing with the negotiations, and negotiations was basically a ceasefire with this whole issue of the uranium to be decided later.
Yes.
What are the chances that's going to happen? I can give pretty good odds that never. They're going to delay and throw up every obstacle they can. And so it's sort of if you're going to put pressure on the mullahs in terms of the nuclear weapon question, the time is probably, and I'm not a warmonger, but the time is probably now or never. If the other party gets into power, certainly
they'll give it back. Everything that he's done, they'll give back.
All progress that's been made is going to be reversed probably in the first 2 weeks that a new administration comes into office. So Trump has the very difficult decision of pressing this thing on, pulling out all the stops, regardless of the political hurt it's going to cause him and the party. And I just don't think, given the people that are whispering in his ear now, I just don't think that's going to happen.
What do you think they're whispering in his ear? I'm just curious. What are they whispering in his ear? And then I'm asking about Israel, because this too comes into play. Is what advice he's being given by his national security team.
Yeah, his national security team basically has been trumped by those closest to him that are saying the longer this thing lasts, the more political damage is being done. And if you have any hope for the party winning the midterms, you've got to come to you've got to bring this war to an end somehow. I'm pretty sure that that's the advice inside the White House he's been consistently given. Now, it's going to be interesting. The new National Security Director, the new DNI,
pretty tough guy,
and Trump had to name him temporary. Pulte had to name him temporary DNI so that he doesn't have to go through a congressional firestorm. But by all accounts, he's more of a hardliner on Iran, certainly than Tulsi Gabbard was. And Tulsi, I really liked her, but she was very cautious about the United States getting involved in a foreign adventure of some sort. And of course, that sort of went against the grain of what Trump was trying to do in Iran.
Yeah. You said something a while ago I want to go back to. You said that you wasn't sure if there was any distance between Trump and Bibi, and I don't think I am either. I don't think anybody really knows. But let's just, for argument's sake, let's just, for hypothetical sake, say that the report in Axios, while it may not have been specifically true, that in principle that him and Bibi, I took what I read in other outlets today as that it was mainly just Trump and him trying to get on the same page, that Trump wanted Israel to see that their actions in Lebanon were going to affect America's situation with Iran, but Bibi wanted Trump to know that while we understand that, we can't keep letting Hezbollah send 1,000 rockets into our northern cities every week and hundreds every night, killing our citizens, and not do something about it. James, no country would do this. No country would allow it. You know, I heard Mark Levin say this. He said if we had a drug cartel unit in Mexico and they were lobbing 100 rockets a day into Texas, South Texas, do you not think the United States would carve a hole into Mexico the size of the Gulf of Mexico? I mean, Mexico wouldn't be on the map. If Trump was in office, he wouldn't allow it. No country would allow that. But we tell Israel when their enemies do this that they don't need to retaliate because it's going to break a paper truce, a paper peace treaty that is a paper tiger to me, that's not worth the paper it's written on right now. And Israel keeps, as you said a while ago, keeps getting hit. But if there is distance between Trump and Bibi, what does this do to everything over there? Because it is a dangerous place to be when your ally, your only ally, you're not supporting him and they're not supporting you. It's not a good look for either one, is it?
No, it's not, and the fact that Israel is so reliant on the United States in terms of top end weaponry and this, that, and the other, even though they have Israeli arms producers are setting all sorts of records now, providing the rest of the world with weapons. But in terms of those really key cutting edge weapon systems, they're still dependent on the U.S. And so they have to sort of, from the Israeli perspective, they have to play nice with the United States. Even when they had enemies in the White House, they were still trying to play nice, and it's just it's a fact of international life that regardless of what party it is, U.S. presidents and U.S. foreign policy always depend on Israel being the whipping boy. Always depends on them taking all the shots and using restraint in how they're going to respond.
Yeah. Well, I hope the distance, if there is any, it needs to get worked out because they're going to need each other in this conflict. But if I'm Bibi Netanyahu tonight, with all due respect to our president, and I love our president, I've supported him 3 times, and I'll support him a 4th time if necessary. vote for him, and I love him, and I respect everything he's done for our country. But on this Iranian situation, last week you said it, and I actually repeated you last night. We do not understand the Middle East. Trump don't understand the Middle East. He may think he does, and I know people out there think he's playing 3D chess. It's not like playing political games with these Democrats over here. He is dealing with a monster in the Middle East with his Persian Empire, James. It is a satanic force. It is satanic stronghold in that part of the world, Islam, this Muslim caliphate, this fascism, that I don't quite think he grasps. Now, I might be wrong. Maybe he understands it more than Chris McDonald does. But from a spiritual standpoint, he's dealing with something very spiritual here. He's not just dealing with a conventional enemy. And you've said this over and over on this show, that no president in the past has ever quite grasped what they're dealing with this monster called the Middle East and these Arab nations.
Now, especially these countries that are run by the most extreme of the extreme in terms of their religious view and the way they view the end of the world, and a religion that chomps at the bit to set up a condition that forces into the world types of scenarios, and against that sort of religious fervor, Western diplomacy, as it has developed for centuries now, is just totally at a loss with how to cope with it, and we get caught in that bind over and over and over again, and we are loath we so much want to be loved by everybody, and we are loath to bring down the hammer in a meaningful way to end this sort of stuff. And it is the constraint that Trump bumps against, well, we'll see. The Pulte coming in as DNI is an interesting development, and he has a hardliner. They call him Little Trump, or at least the Wall Street Journal says that's what everybody calls Pulte, and so he has a sort of a hardcore advocate, certainly when it comes to Trump's autonomy of action in Iran, now that sits at the head of all of these the 18 intelligence agencies in Washington, D.C. So that could be an interesting development in the future, and it certainly will affect, I think, the way the intel organizations view the Iranian war.
Yeah. We'll follow this interesting discussion about it tonight, and I'm sure it's going to be in the news for the weeks to come, so we always value your insight to this. But, it is a volatile situation, and we could come back on this show anytime this week. We could be back at war. I mean, who knows what's going to happen over there. I want to change gears on you for a few minutes before I let you go. There's two big elections tonight. Really, there's some minor ones in Iowa, and I think there was another state that had primaries tonight. But President Trump went out today for the first time, publicly endorsed Steve Hilton. I think he's mentioned Spencer Pratt, but I think he's pulling for Spencer. But the mayor's race in LA and then the governor's race in California, they're voting tonight. They got a jungle primary. Top two candidates go on to the general election in November. What's your gut? We don't have any, again, the polls are just closing right now in California, and I'm sure, from what I understand from Lori Mills, it's going to take them a month to count the votes because a lot of this is mail-in. and we'll start getting a picture of this in the next few days. Do you think either Hilton or Pratt, either one, have at least a prayer to get into the general? Do you think there's been the enthusiasm level has been enough to get the Republicans to the polls? I had a dear friend, Amy Miller, tonight. She was watching polls in South Dakota tonight or today, and at her precinct, only 200 votes. They had a governor's race in South Dakota tonight, and just but a few hundred people showed up to vote, James. And I'm going to tell you something. This is why the right loses elections. We just don't get out and vote. We just don't get out and cast ballots. We got the right calls, but we just don't have the right stuff to do what we're supposed to do. Do you think that Pratt and Hilton have a chance?
When it comes to California politics, I just, as a rule of thumb, and that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And my rule of thumb is that you just take a position, and the wackos are going to win out in California. It's just like the people in that state, for whatever reason, they come up short time and time again, and a lot of it's exactly what you say. When it comes to local elections, or it comes to anything but presidential elections, for whatever reason, conservatives just don't show up to the polling booth.
Why do you think that is? I'm just curious. Why do you think that is? Because I think the primaries is where we change course. I mean, this is the thing. Once you get, it's just like Susan Collins in Maine tonight. I don't care how you feel about Susan Collins in Maine. If you're a Republican, you're up there in that state, you got to vote for her for the balance of power. She's moderate. She's not a big Trump fan. She votes about 90% with Trump, but there's times she don't on big key issues that he needs her. But you sure don't want a Nazi sympathizer who is basically, I would say, more than a sympathizer. The guy's a complete commie Nazi. And that's who the Dems are putting up there. And it leads me to my other question. When we don't vote on the right, the more we don't vote, the more radical the left gets, because they do vote, James. They do go to the polls and do this for their cause. And that's not a good place our country's in tonight.
No, and it's been in that place for a long time. And if I get up on my soapbox, and we talked about that a little bit about this weekend, it's because we've become those that do vote have become enamored with labels rather than integrity, and so you have. Just because a person says he's a conservative, especially a fiscal conservative, and we automatically assume then that person will be more in favor of Christian causes, and we send them to Washington, and they drink the Kool-Aid there, and they forget the people that sent them to Congress in the first place. And it happens over and over and over again. And a lot of it goes right back to this, that people are so passive. And the further right you go until you get to the wackos, the more passive they are. And before you know it, you're in the situation we're looking at right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll be following, and I'm checking the wires just to see if there's any news yet on that. But I'm sure there will be news by morning if there's any movement in the vote total. And again, I was told that all this has mostly been mail-in ballots, some voting in person today. But I want to ask you this. What do we have to do? Because I was asked this question today. What is it that it's going to take to get our elections free of this corruption and free of the cheating, free of these people doing what they're doing, these long delays, weeks, 3 weeks, a month, in counting these ballots. What has to happen to stop that? Because, James, that's where they cheat. This is how they cheat. And even if you got a big turnout, look, they could send 100,000 ballots in. We saw this in Georgia in 2020. And if it's happened one time before, they'll do it again. They keep doing it. Nobody seems to want to stop them. And then you got this Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, that's worthless as a ballot in California is tonight, to be frank with you. I've never seen a more worthless leader in our lifetime than John Thune. And I hate to say it. I love the people of South Dakota, but he has disgraced their state. He's disgraced his country. He's disgraced the office of Majority Leader by what he's doing. This Save America Act could be passed in about 5 minutes, and they've got the votes. Vote for it. Get it on the books. Stop this mail-in nonsense. Stop this voting a month after the fact. Stop this stuff that the Dems have been doing for years. Put an end to it, and let's have integrity-filled elections, not corrupt-filled elections. Now, that's my soapbox. What do you think about all that?
Just one word, amen.
Amen. Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's no reason whatsoever that act shouldn't be passed. And there's no country in the world that don't require some sort of identification for people to vote. And you have to question exactly what motives do the other side have that they refuse to vote for such a common sense measure. That's my view on it.
Well, I'm going to read Cleo's comment here in a minute. It's excellent because the voter ID is key. Every time we vote in Tennessee, you cannot get past the door without showing your driver's license. There's a table that's set up where they identify you. And if you can't present a driver's license or some form of Tennessee ID, you're not going to go any further and you're not going to cast a ballot. That's why we pretty much elect conservatives in our state, in the state and the federal elections, because we've got integrity in the voting booth and people have got common sense not to vote for crazy leftists like James Terrico and crazy leftists like Zolmar Mandami and Plattner up in Maine and all these other nuts. Why has the Democrat Party, I'll let you go home on this one, what has it been that has caused the Dems to go so left, James, other than I know the spiritual part of this, but why and what element drove the Dems to the left? Why have they been driven so far to the left that we can't even stand to listen to them talk anymore? This hearing on the Hill today, the stuff that was being thrown at Rubio, it was insane. It was like listening to a bunch of fifth graders with a fifth grade education, these senators talking to him and the questions they would ask him, trying to get their 5 minute of TikTok fame and their 5 minute of Facebook fame and their 5 minute of X fame. And he called him out on it. He told one of them, he said, your staff probably wrote this question up. It's cute, but all it's going to get you is some TikTok views. It's not the truth. Where has the Democrat Party gone wrong? Because they have gone far left, brother. The whole bunch has just gone commie left and trans left.
Well, and the so-called moderates in the Democratic Party are suffering the same disease. I think the moderates in the Republican Party, and that is they are too passive. They're content with labels rather than integrity, and when that happens, those that are the most energized, that have the agenda, that profit from a leftist neo-Marxist agenda, rise to the top, and that's what we're seeing with the Democratic Party. It's just, in my view, I know some of my friends not going to like this, but it's just a bunch of nut jobs. And 10 years ago, the if people would have been saying some of this garbage that passes for political dialogue on the left these days, they would have been laughed out of the room. And there's just an absence of common sense. There is an absence of any sort of moral scruples whatsoever. And we are just seeing that in spades these days. And I long for the day when there was a Democrat that enjoyed the following and respect of his or her party, and they were moderates. There was a disagreement on certain areas, but you had no doubt that they were loyal to the country, and even though you disagreed with them, they had, at least in their view, the best interests of the country in mind. Those days are gone. You can throw a blanket over people on Capitol Hill these days, and there wouldn't be very many under the blanket of people that are truly patriotic supporters of this country, and that just shouldn't be.
Got to ask you a question. Trump today came out, and we talked about this last night too. Came out yesterday. The White House is not going to make an official declaration on Pride Day. There are senators that are doing it. There are sports teams that are doing it. Most of Major League Baseball is doing it. Most of the NFL is doing it. There's 9 teams in the NFL that have refused to do it. James, where have we gotten to in this country that we are celebrating one of the greatest perversions of nature and one of the greatest perversions in the Bible? And we don't say this in judgment, but what we're saying it in is righteousness, for righteousness' sake. There is nothing in the Bible, there's nothing in nature even, that tells us that same-sex marriage and same-sex cohabitation, same-sex relationships, homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism, where you're allowing men into women's sports, and gender confusion, gender mutilation, and the list could go on, is part of God's will and part of God's plan for man, because it's not. But yet our nation, in many sectors of it, embraces it as if it's normal. And when we give it a month, and you've got actresses out there claiming that they need 12 months to celebrate it, and while we may cringe at that, you've got this Terrico out in Texas basically claiming that God is non-binary, that there are 6 genders. I mean, every day that happens, you're hearing more weird stuff. James, this man is one election away from taking over in the Senate, and that is what seems to be the attack, and that's the battle plan, is that they get these left-wing loon jobs in power, and they start pushing policies to push this perversion on America. And I see this happening more and more. Are you concerned about that we're going to succumb to this? Because we're a network that does our best to cry out against it, but we're just a voice in the wilderness. The church has been silent on it. It's infiltrated the church. What can you do to the world? You can't say very much to the world when the church embraces it.
Well, it's as though the church has cut Romans 3 completely out of the church, and Paul, in his letter to the Romans, examined exactly what would happen, and the reason behind all of this. I mean, you can't even watch a game show on TV without but they seem to favor having these types of individuals on these game shows, and they loudly proclaim their same-sex mate.
Yeah.
And it's as though they have to proclaim it. And, we have seen this trajectory. A few years ago, it was, just sort of be quiet and let them live their own life. And then now they come out and at first they demanded respect. And now it's to the point where not only are you to respect them, but if you don't believe the way they do, there are going to be political consequences for you.
Physical consequences, James.
We have seen that trajectory take place over the last 10 years. And I am fearful for my grandkids. What is it going to be like as that trajectory even grows exponentially for another 10 years? It's, God's just, Jesus Christ just going to have to come back to cut it all off, I'm afraid.
Well, that's our only hope right now. What do you think about the Supreme Court, or not the Supreme Court, but the appeals court telling Hexdeath that he cannot keep transvestites and transgenders out of the military because the appeals court, this is headed to the Supreme Court too, that the military is trying to say you're not fit to serve. What's your thoughts on all that? Because it's they are infiltrating, and you mentioned the consequences. Tolerance is only spoken about when it's on that other side. They're not tolerant of our side. We've seen lawsuit after lawsuit, people being forced to betray their conscience and betray their faith to support the LGBTQ community in businesses. And I'm thinking about Jack Baker, the baker here back in Colorado. It may have been Baker wasn't his last name, but the guy in Colorado that they sued because he wouldn't cook a same-sex marriage cake and lost. He wound up and James, they preach tolerance, but they don't want tolerance. There's no cohabitation. There's no coexistence. It's all they're wanting to push the normalcy of marriage and the normalcy of one man, one woman marriage into the river and push this ideology on our kids, our grandkids, but it starts at the adult. But again, I say this again, because this same attitude has seeped into the church, and this attitude, this is okay, is seeped into the body of Christ. We very well can't tell the world it's wrong, even though it is. But church looks like a hypocrite when we allow it ourselves, and I'll just leave it at that. But what do you think about this ban? Do you think it holds at the Supreme Court, or do you think the Supreme Court sides on the military?
I would hope that they would side with the present composition of the Supreme Court. I would hope they would side on the side of the military. But I'm telling you, it's like I had a long discussion with my wife. I taught, when I was out to college in the Ozarks, a visiting professor out there, taught a course on American law. And, of course, in the modern day, Justice Kennedy, the court was so divided there for so many years, and it was Kennedy that would be the swing vote that would write all the opinions on same-sex marriage and all of those very contentious social decisions that the Supreme Court made one after another there for a space of about 5 to 10 years. And so all of that just turned this country on its head. And you just had all of this confusion that came into to the legal realm. And so that's a long-winded way of saying I have no clue what the court will decide these days, because it's pretty much divided into two wings, and you always have two or three swing votes that decide these contentious social decisions.
Very true. But it's good stuff tonight. I want to give you a few minutes to, we've already gone an hour. It's hard to believe. It feels like we've been talking 15 minutes. Wrap us up a little bit. Final thoughts, anything's on your heart tonight, and we'll say goodnight. It's good stuff. We're praying for the whole situation, James. I'm praying for the country. I am. And I'm praying for President Trump right now with this Iran thing. I think we're dealing with a bunch of demons, and you're not going to make a deal with the devil. The devil's not going to make a deal with us. And sometimes you got to confront evil, buddy, and you got to confront it harshly, and you got to confront it. I know that we're not the world's policemen, but I tell you what, we've got responsibility as a world superpower, and we need to use that responsibility wisely, and we need to use it while we have it, because we may not be the world superpower for long if we keep doing what we're doing.
No, and before America can be a strong country, it has to be a right country, and the right country. I'm not talking about
politically. I know what you're saying.
Wings. I'm talking about moral correctness. There, we have to set a standard, and that standard is only found in Jesus Christ. And if we drift away from that truth, then everybody is sort of it's all sort of a relative morality, and we need to be praying for President Trump to have extraordinarily supernatural wisdom when it comes to the Middle East, and we haven't had that for many years, unfortunately, and there are a lot of voices that are whispering into Trump's ears, as we alluded to previously, and he has some tough decisions to make. And it's my prayer that he makes the correct decisions, not for political convenience, but for the future of my grandchildren. Because if this situation's not resolved, the opportunity passes to resolve it. And that takes courage, and it takes an exceptional amount of wisdom, and both are in short supply in terms of our political elites these days.
Yeah.
And it's my prayer, but this is still, with all of its warts and with all of its blemishes, you don't have to be abroad for very long. This is still the best country on earth, but we have to protect it, and we have to protect the trajectory it is on, those that actually love the country, instead of those that are either lukewarm or actually want to see this country embarrassed, and we're hearing very loud voices that fall into that latter camp these days, and they have political office. It's just incredible. Yeah. It's not the country that I raised my right hand to serve, to defend all those many years ago, and also in the intelligence agency. This country is changing, and I am concerned for my grandkids.
I think we all are, buddy. Listen, we talked about this weekend. We're gonna do a special with James here, maybe next week, in the next few weeks. James, many of you may not know, he served in Vietnam, and I've been wanting to do a special on the Vietnam War for many years since we started doing this show, and we're gonna have my buddy on in an official capacity. of talking about just the Vietnam War and how our veterans have been treated as we approach our 250th anniversary here in July. And I'm really getting excited about it. I feel like it's a unique time, James, special time. And it's a time that, of course, me and you won't see. Me and you, neither one. We'll see the next 50th, the 300th. We're not going to be here for that, unless the Lord gives me a lot of grace. But this is a special time of history. We need to enjoy it and embrace it because it's a unique mark in our nation's history. But I want to talk about our wars and how we fought to get here. And the Vietnam War stands out to me as a turning point, that this rebellion and this attitude of denigrating people that have fought for freedom really started. And we're going to talk about that in a week or two. So next time we'll schedule something like that. But it's been a pleasure to have you, buddy. God bless you. I'm going to let you go. And thank you for being with me and enjoyed our fellowship this weekend more than you'll ever know. And I'll see you soon, okay?
That sounds good, and I'm looking forward to that special show.
Sounds good, James.
I just trust that I can bring an ounce of wisdom to the discussion. But
oh, you bring more than an ounce, buddy. You bring more than an ounce. God bless you, my friend. Tell Miss Imogene hello. God bless you now.
I sure will. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Good night. James Akers, everybody. Put some fire in that house. We're grateful for him, and we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We're not going to keep you long. We don't have many videos to play. I do want to look at the Newswire on Gateway Pundit tonight. This is breaking in the last hour. Scott Pelley, the complete degenerate liberal on 60 Minutes that has taken that show into the gutter. He's part of the reason 60 Minutes is the kind of show it is. He's out tonight. He's been fired by Barry Weiss. The house cleaning at CBS is ongoing and has been a long time coming, and I'm glad to see that. That's one story. This is the story that me and James were talking about tonight. The U.S. Forces intercepted Iranian missiles and conducted self-defense strikes. That was at 9 o'clock tonight, so this has been within the last few hours. And they announced on Tuesday evening that U.S. Defense Forces defended itself against Iranian attacks and executed self-defense strikes against an Iranian military ground control station on Qom Island. The U.S. strikes on the island came in response to the attempted attacks by Iran across the Middle East June the 2nd, according to CENTCOM. And negotiations between the U.S. and Iran are ongoing. And Trump is seeking amendments to the largely negotiated framework for a 60-day ceasefire. They can't even agree on the ceasefire right now, let alone a complete peace deal for long term. Included in the plan would be a 60-day ceasefire, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and concessions from Iran on nuclear enrichment, and an Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire. That is a lot to ask in the Middle East right there. And I don't think the problem is with Israel, as many people are out there claiming tonight. The problem is with Hezbollah. Israel's not shooting rockets into Hezbollah on offense. They're doing it in defense when the Hezbollah terrorism groups are shooting hundreds and thousands of rockets into northern Israel, even as we speak tonight. And the fragile ceasefire continues to be tested and so forth. And this is from the Gateway Pundit. Let's see, is this video, is that on the thing? This is the video from one of the strikes. I think, no, it's not going to show up. There's a block on this thing here. It doesn't show that. But anyway, we're going to follow that story. The Supreme Court has allowed Alabama's congressional map to move forward. Sotomayor fumes about it. The liberals are always fuming. UN, different things. There's a developing story. This was earlier tonight. A man with a bomb strapped to his chest takes at least one hostage at a Chase Bank in Bakersfield, and so forth. High school principal springs into action to shut down a woke Muslim valedictorian's disgusting anti-ICE pro-Palestine commencement speech. We'll think there's a video of this. Watch this. This is how you handle woke kids and kids without a brain. Go ahead. Let me fast forward this.
Your student body president, Madison Moore. Looking back on these past 4 years, it's hard to think about.
Let me do this. This is the long version of that. Let me stop. Let me stop that. Hang on just a second. Let me stop that. This is the TikTok version. Roll the tape. Well, you're not going to be able to hear. Anyway, sorry about that. That is not working out too good. Basically, the kid was being woke, and the principal, as you can see her hand going for the mic there, she just shut it down. Principals, that's how you handle it. You don't let these kids spew this stuff. Not at a graduation ceremony. They want to go do it. Go get their own TikTok account and do it. We're going to talk about this more Thursday night. We mentioned it last night. Paul Krugman of the New York Times claims that the country needs to be demagnified. Basically calling for genocide of all Trump supporters. We're going to talk about that. And there were some other hearings on the Hill today. And we'll be talking about this as the days and weeks go on. Now, no video tonight. I'm going to give you a chance to speak. We've got a double header Thursday night coming up. We'll have a little bit more insight on the Hilton situation. We don't have any results in tonight. I was looking on the wires, and there's nothing there. So if you've got a question, we're going to keep you here about 10 more minutes, and we'll definitely take your comments. If you got any comments about anything James and I talked about, Cleo, good to see you tonight, dear. Bless you. She's in the house, and there's our Telegram room that she's got on our YouTube page. And Tia says, keeping these leaders in prayer, the Holy Spirit intervention is the answer. That is for sure. Cleo says that Hexeth, all he has to do is elevate the physical requirement test. Cleo, that's probably what Hexeth is going to do if the Supreme Court don't step in and stop this. That's probably something he's likely going to do. I don't think him and Trump are the ones going to take whatever happens sitting down. And I mean, I'll agree with you there. It's a good point. Excellent point, really. And no matter what they do in the courts. Cleo also made a statement about the voting. She says, I don't like to blame cheating. However, without voter ID, the party that lets cities burn would not think twice about cheating. And that is excellent and well said. That is absolutely well said. Pat, you said the Dolans say, I wish they would stop calling them self-defense strikes and call them what they are, retaliation strikes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Dennis Floyd says, I think Israel will come to peace with Iran for 3.5 years, and I think soon, so the rapture is just around the corner. Dennis, we're not sure to be Iran. We don't know for sure where the Antichrist is going to come. He's actually coming from Babylon. I don't think, I may be wrong about this. I think this is not anything related to Daniel 9 just yet. It's setting the stage for Daniel 9. It's just too many things that are, the components of this are just not quite there to fulfill that 3.5, that 7-year peace treaty. This is not Daniel 9. We talked about this the other night. This is not in the universe of Daniel 9, even though what you see happening with Trump with these Abraham Accords, it's a dress rehearsal for trying to bring the Arab world on board to have peace with Israel. And when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction is coming upon them. Where Trump may fail with the Abraham Accords, the Antichrist is not going to fail with his Accords. And at least for a season. At least for a season. And then that's when the 3.5 year break in the covenant will take place. This is going to be a full-fledged covenant. Daniel called it a covenant of peace. It's a covenant. And when the Antichrist signs that covenant with many and confirms it, the tribulation has begun. And we know that the church will depart before the tribulation. I agree with your last statement. I do believe Jesus is at the door. Now, being at the door could mean 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 20 years from now. But I just want to reiterate that on the faith side, that this is not in any way, shape, form, or fashion Daniel 9. It's not. Trump's not the Antichrist. I'm not saying that to you, Dennis, but there's individuals out there that are getting paid good money to say stuff like that. By the way, I do want to say this. We're going to talk about the Candace Owens situation Thursday night with her being in Russia and lauding the communists. How wonderful it is to live over there, she said. How wonderful the conditions are. They just treat people so kindly. Well, of course they do, Candace. Of course they would treat you kindly because you've sold out to them. And I could say a lot more about that, but I'm tired. When I get tired, I say stuff I shouldn't say. So I'm going to leave the end of that statement off. But you basically sell your soul. And I told Cleo this tonight. She sent me the story, what Cleo said. And I'll say this about Candace. And I'll say this about Tucker. I'll say it about Marjorie Taylor Greene, Massey, all of them, Hodge twins, Gates. I hope the price tag, the money that they're getting paid, Tucker Carlson, to turn on their country, to turn on Trump, to turn on the Lord, really, to turn on faith people. Megyn Kelly's another one. I hope the money that they're getting, they enjoy it, because it's a very poor exchange for their soul. It's just a poor exchange for their soul. They may think it's a lot of money to sell out your country and sell out the Lord, sell out faith, sell out Christians, sell out Israel. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. The Bible said, it says, current tense, in 2 Timothy chapter number 3, that in the last days men shall be haughty, high-minded, and traitors. And traitors. Traitors. Betrayal. Betrayal. It's going on right now. It's happening as we speak. Many people are betraying their country and their faith for a few shekels of silver. And we're going to talk about that Thursday night. All righty. Listen, God bless you. Good to see Jason Rankin in the house over in Facebook tonight, buddy. I haven't seen you in a while. And thank you so much for being here tonight. Thanking James Akers, Grant Tio, thank you. Good to see you. Stephen Fanahoy, good to see you. All you folks, Carol Smith and our regulars. Listen, Bible students, a little change of plans. Tomorrow we will be with you regular time. We're not quite leaving tomorrow. We've got a few things we've got to take care of here before we leave. So we'll be with you in the morning, regular time. Tomorrow's Faith Night, midweek fellowship. Join us at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. We'll be back here on the news side on Thursday. Probably Friday too. Not sure about Friday yet. But we'll have a week full of shows. And again, we'll keep you updated on these stories we're following. And we'll monitor the Iranian-U.S. situation. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. If you enjoyed the show tonight, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you like the video. Share it out. Put some fire in that house. And tomorrow's Faith Day. We got a lot. I can't talk tonight. Tomorrow is Faith Midweek Fellowship, but we'll have the Bible study in the morning, so be with us then. Get some rest, everybody. Be blessed. Love each other out there. And pray for your country. And pray for President Trump. And pray for each other. Hold your loved ones tight tonight. God bless you all out there. We love you. And we'll see you back here for another one tomorrow on the McFiles Faith and News Network. And until then, McDonald out on a Tuesday, the 2nd day of June, 2026. Be blessed. Good night.